Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Barrens Chat podcast. I'm Saad, and with me today is my co-host Guck. This is a podcast about World of Warcraft by two guys who play it. In this episode, we're going to cover the upcoming World First race in the Eternal Palace, what we think it's like preparing for it, and what we've done to get ready so far. So, Guck, this last week was the first week that the Eternal Palace was open for us. How'd the week go for you and in your raid group?
It was good. We started on heroic and ended up doing pretty well. I think getting 7 out of 8 heroic in 2 raids is okay, especially when you look at the hotfixes that went out this week. Queen Azshara was not free of bugs on release. There have been 2 pretty major hotfixes already to issues that prevented her from phasing correctly, or even bigger things like the boss just despawning mid-fight and now you have to start over again. So it's been kind of up and down. As far as the raid itself, it's been a blast. Not necessarily as good as Battle of Dazar'alor, because I think that was just a pretty stellar raid. As a tank, I feel like the one tank fight is Orgazoa, and that it's fun, but it's not nearly as fun as Grong was. Grong was a really good tank fight, and we don't really have anything cool like that this tier. I was, however, really excited to get into Mechagon. Mechagon was an absolute blast, just like I think everyone expected. The dungeon content since Legion has been absolutely phenomenal, and they definitely outdid themselves in Mechagon.
Yeah, still one of the areas I haven't touched yet, but hopefully next week I'll get into it. I missed a couple days playing this week, which really screwed me as far as getting flying. I'm like a day, maybe 2 away from it. But yeah, I did a couple bosses in Nazjatar. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool raid. I'm 4 bosses in on normal.
What did you think about the entrance, like having to swim through that underwater channel and then come into the palace? What did you think about all that stuff?
So, funny thing, I actually didn't even know where the entrance was, so I just waited for a summon, and when I got summoned inside, so I didn't even have to think about
You're
it.
missing out. Like the presentation of the palace, I guess you'd call it, is really good. It's kind of crazy. They'll send you through all of this kind of old elven architecture, and then it's like elven and naga architecture. It's a pretty cool thing. You should definitely check it out.
Yeah, so I just did the quest line with the Lysra today, and I saw the entrance for the first time, and I noticed there's a flight path right next to it, and then I watched a stream, and the streamer, when he was running into it, said, all right, I'm jumping into the toilet bowl now. So it's kind of a cool concept. It looks cool. So I'm definitely, I'm excited to hopefully next week get my full clear in and just get back into the groove of raiding.
Yeah, so talking about the world first clear, right? Because we're going to go in on Tuesday, and my guild, we're going to try to just crack into Mythic. But there are groups out there who, and I mean, when we talk about groups, we really only talk about a few of them. The 3 that we'll focus on are going to be Method, Limit, and Pisces. I'm not sure if it's Pisces or Pieces, whatever the hell it is. It's Pisces spelled pieces.
Yeah, it's a Russian guild, isn't it?
I'm not sure, but they are one of the 2 that will be sharing the Red Bull Gaming Sphere, right?
Yeah, I believe. So Method isn't doing the gaming sphere. They had disagreements with Red Bull on how to handle it. So Method is doing their own stream, which is cool. I mean, we'll have world first races going on 24/7, I think, which I think is awesome, because that is an untapped market. It's something that's new with Battle for Azeroth, and it's something that I really enjoy watching. I think the commentating on it, I like that. I like they had Rich Campbell and Preach and Haunted and all those guys on it, Method did. And I thought it was awesome to watch, because those people talking about WoW and the progression rating and, different strategies and comps that the raids are trying, it's really cool to see just how everybody interacts and just how good these players are and how quickly they adapt.
Yeah, and I think they even got S-Fand. I think he may be signed as a part of Method, not necessarily as a raider, but as a commentator and content creator. Yeah, it's something that has gone way up in production value. That's for sure. The World First Race is something that is it's as much a viewing spectacle as it is a really cool piece of kind of current events inside of World of Warcraft if you're a player. So like it's just incredible, I think, to see more than 100,000 people watching WoW raiding. Like we've seen it with WoW MDI stuff. So we've seen the Mythic Dungeons kind of get that many eyeballs. Arena and PvP can get some eyeballs, but to see Mythic raiding getting the number of views it did, at least for the last World First race, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Method said that the Mythic World First race had more viewership than Overwatch League, which I think is nuts. And I think the MDI is actually a good watch. I think what's hurting the MDI recently is that every comp is exactly the same, and I mean, who the hell wants to watch that? Like, that's not fun.
Oh, come on. You don't like watching a Prot Warrior, a Resto Druid, two Rogues, and either an Unholy
monk.
DK or a Windwalker Monk run
Yeah.
dungeons?
Yeah.
You don't like seeing that over and
No,
over again?
I mean, that's just the meta. I don't think it's a problem with class balancing. I think it's just the meta. Like, oh, these guys can skip trash, so let's take that. Hopefully this next season will be better. But yeah, that's the only reason that isn't as cool to watch as the rating. And I think the arena is hard to watch just because there's so much more going on.
Well, not to get too far off topic, getting back onto the Mythic Raid, we are, at least me and my guild, we are getting ready, doing kind of some extent of min-maxing, as much as you'd really expect from a 2-day guild. But what I am really enjoying is the transparency that we're getting from guilds like Method and to some extent guilds like Limit in their preparation for World First. We've seen a lot of split rating for Heroic. We've seen a lot of just constant loading up of individuals on specific tunes and people bringing in their alts that are the same gear type to funnel gear. It's been a pretty interesting few days, at least from the perspective that I've had. I've largely been watching Scope do his tanking runs, but it's a very busy week. A lot of split runs. You don't see them pushing AOTC. That's one thing that I've noticed. They don't bother with Queen Ajara. They're doing usually 6 out of 8, maybe 7 out of 8 in their split runs and then just stopping.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they go for the kill like shortly after that. Like with not quite a main raid, they still split run the last boss or two, but they're not focused on getting world first ahead of the curve, right? I mean, they don't really care about that, and I think that's fine. For me, I'm taking kind of a different approach. I was in the same guild as you, but the raid times are just super late and don't work for me. So I've been scouring the forums in various locations and Reddit and WoW Progress looking for a guild. I've applied to one which would require me to faction change one of my characters or play one of my alliance characters. I only have one 120 and he's nowhere near ready. But we'll see what they say about my application. I think it was a solid application, but we'll see. Looking forward to that, and I'm close to flying, and I've been min-maxing my Warlock, and it's a lot of fun kind of playing with the essences and, seeing where to mix and match that and how to maximize my DPS rotation with it. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the thing that people, I think, are starting to appreciate now that flying has been out for most of us. That have actually, and me personally, I'm kind of like Sod. I missed a few days early, but I've managed to get pretty well caught up. For the people who don't have flying yet, even though reputation isn't something that's going to help you out directly in raid necessarily, having flying means that your Azerite power is going to be significantly higher than other people who don't have flying because you have the advantage of almost always clearing the board at a infinitely faster rate than someone who doesn't have flying. It's just so... It's invaluable. I mean, you need flying if you want to actually clear the board of AP World Quests and not tear your hair out.
Yeah, so I pretty much cleared the board today, and I'm like a day, probably 2 days away from flying, so I'll probably have it on Tuesday. And I just did it because I have the contract up with Rust Bolt. That's the only faction I need revered with, so I cleared the board just to maximize that, and oh my god, was that brutal running around. I did get a lot of AP for it, and I even did the Dragonflight quest that pops in the heart of the heart of Azeroth. And Yeah, I actually got a ton of AP for that. So and that was cool. I'm trying to maximize my character as much as possible to, make myself more attractive to guilds that I'm applying to, and hopefully, I'm not really expecting cutting edge. Maybe like an AOTC guild that dips their toes in Mythic and just see where it goes from there.
Yeah, you can have a ton of fun in a group that is honest about what content they're going to get to. Like, if they're honest about, guys, we're going to get AOTC a month or, 4 to 6 weeks into the patch. We're going to maybe get through farm mythic content. Like, I would consider maybe 3 out of 10 mythic in BOD to be like that farm content for everyone. So if you're in a guild that is going to get AOTC mid tier and get farm mythic and kind of just do that casually, that kind of semi hardcore, pseudo hardcore guild can be a lot of fun if you're doing it with fun people. Like that's the kind of environment that we sort of started in.
Yeah, I mean that's really what makes WoW great, right? It's the community. So hopefully I find a good community that I fit in with. I'm kind of like I'm nervous about the idea of faction changing, but at the same time I'm excited for it. I haven't played Alliance since vanilla, so it's I'm nervous because it is a small financial investment, right? It's not that big of a deal, but how am I going to fit in with these people and where's it going to go? But at the same time, I'm in new cities, new story, and I have one of the allied races unlocked, but I'll probably unlock Culturian humans too, just passively doing my emissaries in that. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah. So we as a semi-hardcore guild, so we're kind of the next tier below the hardcore guilds. Currently, if you're a hardcore guild, if you're one of the top guilds, you're going to be split rating like we mentioned earlier. What we do is this kind of we're clearing the board like we were just talking about. We're going to be kind of min-maxing how we turn in Paragon caches and your daily emissaries. We're going to be making sure people, despite hating them, maybe run a few islands, get that world vein essence ranked up. There are a few things that we're doing that kind of separate us from a casual guild, but the preparation that we've done this week has not been anything too crazy. I think it's something fun to do. Like when there's a new patch, uh, there's a whole new series of content that you can get into. I'm enjoying the novelty of that. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but it's given me something to do. And as a guild, what we're doing is preparing us for that mythic opener next week. Sod, what have you been up to this week in Azeroth?
Yeah, so basically, I did. I think the highest mythic plus I did was an 8, which is unfortunate. I didn't maximize myself at a 10, but it was hard for me this week. I had a lot going on with with my kids and stuff, but I've been grinding the rep, trying to get flying because flying to me is a huge deal because I want to finish leveling my alts in Battle for Azeroth. And at the same time, I've also been leveling allied races too. I've been leveling Iron Dwarf, a Dark Iron Dwarf Shaman, and I was like, I was trying to dungeon grind at first, and I went in a dungeon, and the tank was just pulling so slow. Which I mean, he was a new player; it's not his fault, but that's just not the pace I wanted to move at. So what I did was I just said, all right, screw this. I can't dungeon grind. I uh, I turned on Azeroth autopilot and I went out into the world and I'm cruising, leveling. Like it's not even close. Doing questing in Redridge and then Duskwood and I'm in STV right now. I'm almost level 40. I have like a couple hours played. It is lightning fast if you have heirloom. So that to me is awesome. I've actually been enjoying that. So like when I'm online grinding on my main, I'm looking forward to finishing my rep grind so I can get on my alt and level it again. I'm having a lot of fun. So it's kind of like rejuvenated my love of the old world a little bit.
Have you gotten any of those kind of nostalgic vibes from being in these old zones? I mean, recently we were playing through these zones in a private server, but I mean, going back in retail, did you get any of those classic feelings? Did you see any other people leveling? What was it like as far as compared to the classic experience?
Yeah, so I saw other people leveling, but as far as nostalgia, it's not even close. It's, you see other people leveling, you just throw them an invite if they're killing the same thing you do, so you can finish the quest twice as fast, and you don't really talk to anybody. I mean, you have heirlooms on, so you pretty much kill mobs in a couple spells. It's really it's not even close to what classic is or what it will be, but at the same time, I'm not really trying to have that nostalgia feel here. I'm just trying to get myself leveled up as fast as possible, and I'm thinking about trying to grind the heritage armors just because I didn't realize how easy it was to level, and we'll see if I can push that. We'll see how long it lasts.
And a lot of those sets look pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're pretty cool. Even like the classic ones, like the dwarves. Not the dwarves. Jesus, the Tauren. I might even try to get those. I do have like obviously Tauren and gnomes that I've leveled like by hand that I might just try to get all the heritage armor on and maybe just be a complete degenerate and just try to farm all the mogs.
Just pull a Bob Lundwall. Just level a character up to max level and never touch it
Yeah,
again.
yeah. Well, I mean, you know that I do the same thing. I have one of every class at least 110 on Horde, and once I unlock flying, I'll finish them all. Unfortunately, the assaults aren't quite like the Legion invasions, where they guarantee a level each time you do them, but they do all right.
So we've talked about what we're expecting from the World First race. We've talked about how my guild is preparing for it, a little bit how Sod is preparing for it as someone who's not really interested in Mythic, or at least not yet. I mean, you can't have a high interest in Mythic until you have a guild that is good enough to do it. If you have an interest in Mythic and you're in a guild that just can't cut it, and you want to stay in that guild, it's going to cause a lot of friction. So Sod, you're in this kind of gray area, like you've said, where you're finding a new guild, getting these things settled. So, that's a very different experience. You have so much experience with the guild side of it, right? But now that you're on the applicant side of it, you can use that wisdom to, like you said, make a good application and make sure you get in somewhere good. So hopefully that pans out for you.
Yeah, so the application that I filled out today was pretty in depth. It had a lot of questions on it, like some personality stuff to make sure I fit in with like the guild culture and all that. And it actually asked me like a lot of like rating experience questions, which actually a lot of them were tough to answer because I haven't rated seriously in like over a year, right? I mean, so that was actually tough for me to answer. It took me about a half hour to finish the application, and hopefully I hear back soon. I'll probably, I've already WoW armored the guild I applied for, so I'll probably send a tell to an officer at some point and see if they had a chance to look at the application and what they thought, and maybe get in for like an interview process here pretty soon. It's not like a crazy serious guild, right? They're pretty casual with their hours and they're lenient with the attendance, but at the same time they're pretty serious about rating from what I read on their code of conduct and whatnot. So looking forward to hearing back, and it's kind of exciting going through this process. I was nervous about it at first, and now I'm just really excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, it's all about the community. So if when you find those good communities and it, gets you re-energized into raiding again, that is one of the most fun aspects of WoW. That reinvigoration that happens with the new patches. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely tell there's been a lot more activity going on in Azeroth in the last week or two. So, and with the new raid, it doesn't seem like it's going to slow down right now. It is pretty cool. I'll tell you what, that swimming fight in the Eternal Palace, I thought I was going to hate. I was like, oh god, this is what's going on. And that fight was actually pretty cool environment to fight in. They didn't make the swimming super annoying. So I thought that was I forget which boss it was, but it was a pretty cool design fight.
It's the behemoth. Yeah, I feel like if they didn't add those slipstreams where you swim faster between the jellyfish, it would be a pretty insufferable boss. But since the swimming's kind of fast, the gimmick to the fight where you grab the bioluminescence from the pufferfish, but then you have to lose it before you swim over the gap, because if you're lit up, you'll get eaten. I find that mechanic to be kind of amusing. It's a cool second boss. It's not too hard. It's a nice introduction to the raid. Honestly, I feel like it does a better job of making you feel like you're in the Eternal Palace than the first boss does, as far as like the introduction to the raid tier. But, you know, I definitely don't mind it.
Yeah, and I mean, I've only done it on normal, right? But I would say as like an intro, it's fairly simple and straightforward, and I didn't think it was too challenging. So I think like if people are nervous to get into raiding, maybe they're LFR people, put yourself out there and see what you can find. And a lot of the guilds that raid normal and push into heroic are actually very chill people that just try to have fun with the game. Put yourself out there and try to get involved with the community.
Thank you for turning into this episode of the Barrens Chat podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk about World of Warcraft. If you've got any comments, questions, anything you want to tell us, contact us by email at barrenschatpod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at barrenschatpod.